Namaste guys, I wanted to talk today about the Gemini rising. And if you're a Gemini riser, this is a video for you. Or if you have a family member that's a Gemini rising or a friend, then this video is for you too. I want to call the Gemini risers the Zen masters. Because ever since I saw the BBC documentary of Extreme Pilgrimage Part 1, I realized there was a coordination with Gemini and Zen. Because Gemini likes to live in the moment. And Zen is all about living in the moment. And sometimes when a Gemini makes a mistake, they don't learn from it because they keep repeating that same mistake. They live in the moment. They don't think forward ahead in the future like a Sagittarius does. This has its pros and its cons because somebody that's constantly living in the future is bad, but somebody that doesn't learn from their mistakes and doesn't, have wisdom to discern from good or bad, it's also bad. And as a result, sometimes Gemini suffers from cruelty towards themselves because they beat themselves up. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. Or, they suffer from sometimes some low self-esteem. And that is shown in the Nine of Swords of cruelty in the tarot cards. Also, the tarot cards shows Jupiter in Gemini. The tarot card is called interference. And it's when they have too much of the same thing and they can't choose, they can't pick. And that's when they become confused mentally. And remember, Gemini has to do with the mind, everything thinking, immediate surroundings, okay? Because in astrology, it rules the third house in every chart. So everything that has to do with getting from point A to point B, Gemini loves that. They enjoy that, okay? Unlike other signs that don't enjoy it, and Geminis are the type of people that enjoy mingling on the way to one place to the other, okay? They can mingle about anything, okay? And if you're not that type of sign that's extroverted, you could end up being annoyed, okay? Another thing that Gemini suffers from is 10 of Wands, which is ruin. And it's when they have to reprogram themselves because they keep repeating the same negative dialogue in their heads, okay? And they have to say, well, you know what, I have to stop this and I have to form a new habit of thinking positively, okay? And then things will go their way. But otherwise, they'll keep thinking negatively, and it's just a really bad, negative feeling that they have inside that they need to get over. Now, Gemini rising obviously has, Gemini in the first house, and I don't have to say much about the personality because I just did. And they have Cancer in the second house. And Cancer in the second house means that the way they spend their money is on making their house comfortable and homely, for friends, okay? And that's like a Cancer trait, and the Cancer trait falls in their second house of possession. So they might spend a lot of money, making their house nice and cozy and stuff like that. So when friends come around, usually they love friends coming to their house and visiting. Gemini rising has Leo in the third house, meaning there's where they shine. Like I say, they shine in the area that it has to do with from getting from point A to point B. And in their mind and their way of thinking, they shine in that area. Okay, and that's where they most get their reputation from. Okay, being able to mingle as they go along, and dealing with things that people would find annoying. These people will really love it. Okay, Gemini rising has Virgo in the fourth house, and what it means is that they tend to be very picky towards family members. They pick in differences in family members. It means that when they do something, it has to be organized. They don't like arguments, family arguments. They try to, because Virgo doesn't like arguments in the family. They don't like confrontations. So they try to keep titty in the family. They try to keep everything organized, nice, and kindness in when it comes to family. Okay, they don't like people gossiping bad about others. When it comes to family. Gemini rising has Libra in the fifth house of romance, meaning that when it comes to romance, they need to be in a social place. They need to be in a bar. They need to be in a club, somewhere where there's a lot of social drinks, and because Libra likes that. They like that flamboyance part of life where they could show off the colors and the music, and they wouldn't like somewhere quiet. They would find it boring. So if you're going to date somebody that's a Gemini rising, you might want to take them somewhere exciting, full of light and life, because they're going to want it. Okay. Gemini rising has Scorpio in the sixth house of health, meaning that they're very strong physically, okay? And they could overcome any illness, pretty much, just like a Scorpio rising, because they have that Mars sector in the sixth house. I think the routine has to do with being a little bit more quiet, more reserved, so then they could, be extroverted, when they want to be social. So I guess during the routine, they're very reserved, and whenever they have to get from point A to point B, then that's where they exert that energy, okay? But otherwise, in the work, or they try to, you know, keep that energy, you know, they try to reserve that energy for later. Gemini rising has Sagittarius in the 7th house, meaning the type of partner that they marry has to be very understanding of them, obviously. They need someone that's going to be open-minded, someone that's going to be intellectually stimulating. And Sagittarius is very intellectually stimulating for Gemini. So that is like the type of partner that you need, okay? Someone that's not going to be too clingy, because Gemini needs things fast. If they don't have it now, then like 2 minutes later they don't want it, okay? So they need someone that understands that. Gemini has Capricorn in the 8th house, and I could actually give you a great example of what it feels like to have, you know, Capricorn in the 8th house. And Capricorn in the 8th house is like Prince. If anybody's seen Prince, the artist formerly known as Prince, he has this thing of sexuality where he's a Gemini, obviously, but he has this kinky Capricorn kind of thing of bondage and stuff like that. And he perfectly describes a Gemini rising, although he's a Scorpio rising. But he perfectly, that example that he gives in his image is that of a person that could pretty much sexually satisfy a whole entire, you know, herd of sheep, the animalistic characteristic of goat, that they go on and on and on forever. And this is the Gemini, okay, when it comes to the intimacy part. Now, Gemini has in the 9th house, it has Aquarius, meaning that their higher knowledge has to be highly intellectual, Nothing of religious stuff, no. Their religion is more based on science, okay, and the intellectual, logical part. And when Aquarius is on the 9th house of religion and belief, it has to be very logical for these people. It cannot be based on faith. You know what I mean? Gemini rising has Pisces in the 10th house, and they come off to be compassionate listeners, okay? And that's what Pisces is. They're very compassionate. And when you put in the 10th house, their public persona, their reputation is of being listening, because obviously Gemini loves to talk. So when they come to a stranger, they come off to be very, you know, attentive and listening. So they come off to be like a Pisces. Gemini has Aries in the social life in the 11th house, and that means that they are go-getters when it comes to friends. These people love to be surrounded by people, and they just dive in there, just like an Aries. They just dive in there, and that's what Aries does. They're leaders. They're like piranhas when it comes to finding people to mingle with. Gemini has Taurus in the 12th house, and this means that their hidden self is very lustful and possessive. Taurus falls in the 12th house, meaning that what they have to battle throughout their life, their biggest demon, is being swooned by beautiful things, you know, superficial stuff, food, and that's something that they have to overcome, okay? Because the 12th house has to do with things that you have to overcome, dreams, temptations, and that is what it is. It's a Taurus. Taurus rules the organ of the skin, you know, that lustful desire to have someone because of their appearance or because they like it, okay? Not because it's soul related, like Scorpio, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video of Gemini rising and all of its houses, and namaste.